The regular meeting of the Mishawaka Common Council for Monday, October 16th, 2023 will please come to order. Good evening, everyone. Those of you who are in attendance, we're happy to see you. If you would, please take a moment and check your cell phone to make sure that you have placed it on silent or vibrate. And we also want to welcome those participating via the live stream as well. We also welcome you. And we are asking members of the public who are participating remotely to place their microphone on mute during the meeting with the exception of any public hearing. At the appropriate point in the public hearing, I will invite the public to unmute their microphone for purposes of submitting such comments as they may wish to make, one person at a time. All persons making a comment will be asked to first state their name and address for the record, and after completing the comment, members of the public are once again asked to place their microphone on mute. And we thank all of you for your cooperation this evening. At this time, please join us in rising for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Hazen.
Yes.
Mr. Belovich. Mr. Belovich.
Here.
Mr. Mamalenti.
Here.
Mr. Benicki.
Here.
Mr. Emmons.
Here.
Mrs. DeMade.
Here.
Mr. Compton.
Here.
Mrs. Volker.
Here.
Mr. Hicksonbaugh.
Here.
All are present in the chambers.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes of our regular meeting of October 2nd, 2023. Are there any additions or corrections? Then hearing none, the minutes stand approved as received from the clerk's office. Petitions, communications, remonstrance, and memorial.
Yes, Mr. President, we have a letter from the Board of Zoning Appeals regarding their recommendations from their October 10th, 2023 meeting. Honorable members, a regular meeting of the Mishawaka Board of Zoning Appeals was held on the above referenced date, at which time the following use variances were considered. Appeal number 2023-27, an appeal submitted by Comfy Homes LLC, requesting a use variance for 550 Union Street to allow adult daycare in the I-2 Heavy Industrial District. The board, with a vote of 3-0, recommended approval. Appeal number 2023-34, an appeal submitted by South Bend Hebrew Day School, requesting a use variance for 206 West 8th Street to allow for a daycare. The board, with a vote of 3-0, recommended approval. Appeal number 2023-18, reconfirmed finding from the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting on June 13th, 2023, for use variance for self-storage in C4 automobile-oriented district for a property located at the northeast corner of East McKinley and Maplehurst. The board, with a vote of 3-0, recommended approval. This is signed by Donna Burkhart, Administrative Planner. We also have a letter from the City Plan Commission regarding their recommendations from their October 10th, 2023 meeting. Honorable members, a regular meeting of the Mishawaka Plan Commission was held on the above date, at which time the following petitions were considered. Petition number 2023-20, a request submitted by Petkov and Sons LLC, requesting to rezone property at 1213 East Jefferson Boulevard from I-2 Heavy Industrial to C4 Automobile-Oriented Commercial for lots 8 through 11 and for 2 vacant parcels with frontage on Stanley Street to R1 Single Family Residential for lots 28, 29, and west half of lot 27. The petition was withdrawn per petitioner and commission. With a vote of 7-0, approved the withdrawal. Petition number 23-21, a request submitted by the heirs of or devisees of Helen Segerman, deceased, requesting to annex and establish zoning as C2 Planned Unit Development District for property located northeast of Fur Road and Beacon Parkway, and a request submitted by First Source Bank to amend a part of the northeast Fur and Cleveland Road Planned Unit Development. The commission, with a vote of 5-2, recommended approval. This is signed by Donna Burkhart, Administrative Planner.
Thank you. This evening, we have no report of any special committee, so we'll move into ordinances on first reading.
Proposed ordinance number 2023-49, excuse me, an ordinance declaring an emergency and transferring and reappropriating funds within the budget adopted for the calendar year ending December 31st, 2023. This is Central Services in the amount of $20,000.
Proposed ordinance 2023-49 will be assigned to the Budget and Finance Committee.
Proposed ordinance number 2023-50, an ordinance annexing contiguous territory to the city of Mishawaka, Indiana, and providing zoning classification therefore. This is annexing northern at 13.55 acres and establish PUD and amend PUD for southern 6.88 acres, northwest corner of Burr Road and Beacon Parkway.
Proposed ordinance 2023-50 will be assigned to the Land Use Planning Committee. Resolutions.
Resolution R 2023-22, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana, approving a petition of the Mishawaka Board of Zoning Appeals for the property located at 550 Union Street, Mishawaka, Indiana. This is a use variance to allow adult daycare in I-2 Heavy Industrial District. The petitioner appellant is requesting postponement.
Thank you. Mr. Hazen.
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to postpone till our November 13th meeting, R 2023-.
Second.
Thank you. A motion has been made and seconded to postpone further public hearing on proposed resolution 2023-22 until our regularly scheduled meeting of November 13th, 2022. Any additional questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The matter will be postponed until November 13th. I'll also add for the record that the reason for the postponement is to allow for the scheduling of a meeting that will afford an opportunity for the proponent of this proposal to not only provide some additional information to the council, but to the public. And that will take place on Monday, October 30th at 6 p.m. on site at 550 Union Street. So we would certainly invite anyone who has questions or who is interested in that matter to attend that meeting. But this matter will not be heard again until November 13th at that council meeting. Thank you.
Proposed resolution number R 2023-23, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana, approving a petition of the Mishawaka Board of Zoning Appeals for the property located at 206 West 8th Street, Mishawaka, Indiana. This is a use variance to allow daycare center in R1 Single Family District, 206 West 8th Street.
Thank you. We will now open the public hearing on proposed resolution 2023-23. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, if you would, please come forward to the podium and begin by stating your name and address for the record.
My name is Catherine Baker. My address is 51315 Stony Brook Drive, Granger, Indiana, 46530.
Ma'am, if you could, position the microphone a little bit closer to you. It's sometimes tough for us to hear up here.
Is that better?
That is much better. Thank you.
My name is Catherine Baker, 51315 Stony Brook Drive, Granger, Indiana, 46530.
All right, thank you. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your proposal?
We desire to open a daycare. We think it would be good for the area. We currently have a location in Elkhart, which we've outgrown, and we found this school, which is much bigger, which would give us more room to be able to help. We really focus towards lower income families, helping them to be able to have professional child care with trained people to be able to take care of their children.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions from the council? Mr. Emmons.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a few questions for you. First of all, did you purchase the facility?
Yes, we are.
So you're the sole owner?
Well, me and my husband.
Okay. Second, there's some work that needs to be done on the outside of that facility to make it safe for kids walking to and from or dropping off because of the metal sheeting on the roof, or actually on the side, on the soffit. Is that going to be taken care of?
Yes, they've told us about it, so we're waiting to get everything done legally with the meetings to make sure that we'd be able to be in the building, and then we're going to work out who's going to fix the roof. But it definitely has to be fixed in order to get passed by the state for us to even open.
Okay, so there'll be no children there until that is fixed, correct?
No, sir.
Okay, no, hold it. Did you answer no to my question?
No, there will be no children.
Okay. Also, basically, what's your age group you mentioned there? Is that going to exceed?
It will be from 6 weeks to 13 years old.
Okay. And I assume all of your instructors or caregivers are licensed?
Yes, sir. Everybody that does childcare has to pass a federal background check to be able to work in the facility.
Okay. And that is being in the process right now?
Well, yeah, we've already got 6 people that are clear from our other facility that we would start with, but everybody that comes on new have to be fingerprinted by the state.
Okay, will you transport people from Elkhart facility to this one, or will it just be for basically this area?
Well, we have right now 150, and out of that, we asked who would want to go, and we only had 10 people. So I don't think our Elkhart people, the 10 families that live in Mishawaka, would want to come, but the rest would remain.
Okay. And in the playground, I know that playground needs quite a bit of work out there. Is that in your plan to correct those situations in the playground?
They just put a new playground out there.
I know that, but I'm talking about the fencing area in that over there.
You mean, I'm not understanding what you're
On the
asking me.
playground on the north side, northwest and east side of the playground. Unless it's just been fixed in the last couple of days, there were some problems with the fencing. So,
Yes, sir. We're going to fix, everything has to come up to code for us to even open it by the state.
Okay.
So if the fencing or anything has an opening, we can't even do anything until, the state won't even approve it to be open without everything being fixed, up and running, and up to code.
okay, I'm glad to hear that. And welcome to the neighborhood. Thank you.
Other questions? Mrs. Volker?
Hi, thank you very much. And thanks for your interest in Mishawaka. I have a few questions. I'm wondering, I know that there are different accreditation levels. Can you tell me, and I might not be using the correct terminology, but can you tell me at what level your daycare is at right now? I think it goes from like 1 to 4 or 5.
The one we're at now is Glory Bound Daycare Ministry, so it starts at a level 1. The one that we're going to open is going to be Glory Bound Learning Center. So the one that we're opening, we hope we can open them, because you can open them on a 2 with we've got more than 5 years experience. So we're hoping to open it up on a 2 and work our way to 4.
Okay. Thank you.
Other
And then
questions?
Open it to, another question that I have is about, you said that you want to focus on lower income families, and I'm curious about how, what kind of funding you'll have. Will you be participating in any state funding for kids, or will it be private pay, a mix?
We do both right now, and when I say focus on lower incomes family, because sometimes childcare is very expensive. For a newborn right now, it's $465. If a young lady comes to me and really want to work, really want to better herself, and she can only afford to pay $275, I'm not going to turn her away. I'm going to take the $275, give her child a safe, licensed facility, and help her get to where she's trying to get to be better in the future, so we will have a better future with our young people.
So you're going to have a sliding scale of sorts then for people that are unable to afford it. Will you be accepting any state funding?
Yes, ma'am, we will accept the state vouchers that they offer to the young women.
Okay. And then I just had a kind of a question about the scale. So you said that you have 6 people that are working for you right now that have passed the federal background check. So that's your child care providers?
Yeah,
But you have 150 kids. So is your ratio then one caregiver for 100, or for one caregiver for 25 children?
No, I had 6 that we're going to bring with us to start up the new daycare. The rest of them are going to remain at the daycare that we now have. And we have 150 kids, but you might have 75 kids at the most in one day. But we have 150 kids enrolled, but they all don't come at the same time.
Okay.
Because we open at 3:30 in the morning, and we close at 6 in the evening.
So are you planning on opening at 3:30 in the morning in Mishawaka as well?
We plan on opening at 5 in the morning in Mishawaka.
So one of the things that I also saw was that in the requirements for you, you have to have off-street loading and unloading. And I know that was a concern that one of the neighbors discussed with me, mentioning that there were traffic backups on 8th Street when it was operating as a school with drop-off. So how will you be handling drop-off and pickup?
We're going to do drop-off and pick-up in the front of the building. And daycares are definitely different from school. You might get 3 or 4 parents at a time, but it won't ever be like a school was, because you don't get 20 parents at one time. Or if you open a school, it's just a line of cards, and it's never like that.
Okay, so I'm fairly certain, though, I read in the, from the city engineer, that you needed to have off-street drop-off.
Well, for a daycare, we haven't been told any different, that we couldn't have the front part for pickup and drop-off. And the fire marshal was there today, and them and the fire marshal and the state works close together. And we've been doing this the last 13 years, so I've never been told that.
I'll read through I'm sure other people have questions, so I'll read through the report and just skim it and find that, and then I'll come back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Mr. Mamalenti?
Thank you, Mr. Hicksonball. Thank you, Mrs. Baker, for coming this evening and for your presentation. I just have a few quick questions. Did you say that you've already purchased this property?
No, we're going to purchase it.
Going to purchase it.
We want to make sure that it meets all the codes, so before we do that.
Sure, understood. And is it your plan to keep the Elkhart facility in operation as well as you operate the one in Mishawaka?
Yes.
Yes, okay. And at your the zoning meeting, you had mentioned that it holds up to 250 students. And is that your plan to get to 250?
Well, I want to help as many people as possible. This is a new area for us, so if I can get 200 parents that will come, we will take whatever people come and need. We're here to offer that.
And who set that amount for 250?
Well, in the school, they had way more than that, but that's about what I want to start with, no more than 200 children.
So then, based on the ratio, the state required ratio, how many caregivers would you need?
If I had that many? Well, it goes according to children. Like if we have babies, newborns from anything 12 months and under, it's 1 person to 4 babies. So for every 4 babies, you got to have 1 adult. And as they get older, say we're doing the 4-year-olds, you can have 1 adult to 7 children. And then the after-school kids, you can have 1 adult. If they're kindergarten and older, you can have 1 adult to 15 children.
And then, are you going to be providing lunch or an option for lunch?
Yes, we provide lunch.
Okay. And that
The
will
only-
be prepared on-site?
Yes,
And I'm assuming those kitchen and will be inspected by typical health codes?
yes.
Okay. That's all I have at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am, let me follow up on a couple of the points that my colleagues made. First of all, thank you for commitment to helping our community and the community as a whole. And I love the idea that this school is going to be reused for this type of purpose. But going back to the question about the drop-off and pickup, Mrs. Volker is correct. In the staff report that we received, and I presume that you received a copy of the report that our staff did prior to the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting and then prior to tonight's meeting. it does indicate that the engineering department has commented that you must accommodate off-street drop-off. And the reason for that is even going back to the days when this was an elementary school, and then when Hebrew Day School was there, it became a problem, and the police chief perhaps can speak to this, but it became a problem when parents would park on the south side of 8th Street and then walk their children across the street in the middle of the street without using either corner. Now granted, it's a little bit different when you're talking about preschoolers, but still, I sense that my colleagues would agree with me that that's of concern to us if there isn't going to be adequate provision made so that even if it's just a handful of parents dropping off at any point in time, beginning at 5:30, that we don't have people crossing in the middle of the street, particularly in those early morning hours when sometimes it's dark like it is this time of year, and it can be a problem for all of us. So do you have any plans to try to accommodate that off-street parking so that rather, if you met by the front of the building on 8th Street, I sense that's going to be a problem for myself and others, and it's inconsistent with what the engineering department has recommended. Now, I will grant you that that's more of a site plan issue and isn't about the use per se, but in order for me and others to be able to vote in favor of this and say that this will be supportive of the public health and safety of the community, I think it's relevant to talk about these traffic issues. So can you talk about that plan for drop-off and pickup, whether it's at the beginning of the day, end of the day, or during the day, and how you think that you could work to avoid having parents park on that street and walk their kids across in the middle of the street?
Well, we could also have drop-off in the back of the building as well. So if it would be an issue, we would just move our drop-off from the front, because we never planned on them, always planned on them pulling right up in front of the building to do drop-offs. But if it's going to be an issue, they can also do drop-off and pick up in the back.
Do you provide your parents, when they enroll their children or child in your program, with some guidelines as to what you expect out of them or how the day operates so that they know what they're supposed to do on a daily basis?
Yes, sir, I do.
Would it be a problem for you to work in a statement that you need to drop off on the same side of the street as the school so that we don't have people walking across the street, or drop off in the back of the building so we don't have the same type of issues? Could you commit to doing that in what you ask your parents to do?
Yes.
Okay. The other thing that is both the strength and perhaps a challenge with regard to this building is that it's embedded right in the middle of that neighborhood, which I think would make for a very pleasant environment for what it is that you plan to use it for. But it also can become a problem if whomever occupies that building doesn't really live by the motto of being a good neighbor and take care of snow removal and take care of garbage. You're not going to be doing a lot of outside activities, I understand, with preschoolers, but to the extent that there would be anything outside that would blow in people's yard, to the extent that we need to have the sidewalks shoveled so that people can, walk back and forth in front of your building, do you have adequate staff in place and resources to be able to take care of those building maintenance issues on a daily basis so that this won't become an issue for the neighbors?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Do you have on-site custodial and maintenance staff who work in the building, or how do you take care of those issues, particularly when you're going to have 250 kids in a school building? There's a lot of upkeep, as you know, and a lot of day-to-day cleaning. So how are you going to accommodate and handle that if this takes off and goes to the level that you want it to?
We have an outside company that does our snow now, and we have an outside person that cleans our buildings now.
Do they do that during the course of the day, or do they do that before or after your program operation hours?
After hours. Well, the snow guy comes about 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
And then they clean the building at nighttime.
Okay. We talked about when you're planning on opening up, around 5 o'clock, if I heard you correctly. What will be the concluding time for your program there on site? What time will you finish up?
6 p.m.
Okay. And then, as Mr. Emmons alluded to, it's a beautiful building, and I love it, and it, has been here since, time immemorial almost in Mishawaka. But those type of buildings require a lot of upkeep. So do you feel like you have the adequate resources to be able to reinvest in the physical plant of the building so that those fence issues, those roofing issues, things like that are going to be able to be taken care of in an appropriate way?
I do.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate your patience with me. Any other questions? Mr. Compton?
I just have a comment. Ms. Baker, thank you for coming into Mishawaka, into a neighborhood that can use the resource that you're trying to provide, answering all these questions from the council, which is concerning for the neighborhood, just to make, cross our Ts and dot our Is. But this is sorely needed in Mishawaka. And thank you for coming here and making a run at it and trying to do a good thing for our city and people who live here.
All right, any other questions? Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor? If you would, please come forward to the podium. Then is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in favor? Is there anyone in attendance this evening who wishes to speak in opposition? Please come forward. Then is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in opposition? Are there any council members who wish to speak? If not, then I call for the question.
Question.
Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Belovich?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalente?
Yes.
Mr. Beninky?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mrs. DeMade?
Yes.
Mr. Compton?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
Yes.
Mr. Hixenbaugh?
Yes.
Resolution passes 9-0. Resolution R 2023-24, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana, approving a petition of the Mishawaka Board of Zoning Appeals for the property located at the northeast corner of East McKinley and Maplehurst, Mishawaka, Indiana. This is a use variance to allow mini storage and developmental variances for setback, fencing, and parking, northeast corner of East McKinley and Maplehurst.
Thank you. We'll now open the public hearing on proposed resolution 2023-24. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, please come forward.
Good evening, members of the council. My name is Bernie Feeney. I'm a registered land surveyor with Whiteman Associates in Plymouth, Indiana. I'm here this evening to represent Stoyan Stoyanov and 1500 McKinley LLC. This set of variances that you're looking at here this evening are variances that accompany the site plan that you've already taken a look at, that the Plan Commission has taken a look at and approved, is in the process of being approved. I have a few revisions to make. The plat has been approved that sets this piece of property up in the fashion that had been recommended by both the Plan Commission and the Engineering Department, and dedicates additional right-of-way for the future improvement of McKinley. In addition, we have secured the approval of the Engineering Department on the erosion control plan for this particular piece of property. This is the final piece of the puzzle that will allow the buildings to be built on this property in the fashion that we've shown them and represented them so far to both you and the Plan Commission and the Board of Zoning Appeals. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Feeney? Mrs. Volker?
Hi, thank you very much. Hi, good to see you again. I just had a question about the 5-foot as opposed to 15. I think it's maybe 5 foot versus 15 feet between the building and the fence, I think, the setback change. Do you know what I'm talking about?
The 5-foot, there are,
It's on the east side by building number 1, it says in here.
building number 1 is the building on the far west side. Building number 6 is the building on the far east side.
Okay. So the 5-foot variance that you're asking for is going to be right next to Maplehurst then, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then a 7-foot fence as opposed to a 6-foot fence?
Correct.
Okay.
And the reason for these items and issues has been, and the developer and I discussed this at length, there have been security issues out there on the property. Some of the cars for Cars to You have been showcased on this property, and the owner has experienced theft of catalytic converters on almost a wholesale basis out there. These buildings and the development of this property will provide more security for the autos being stored at Cars to You. Most of the trespass has occurred from Maplehurst into the property under cover of the woods. If any of you have been out there recently, subsequent to the approval of the erosion control plan, the woods are now gone. And there is much less hiding space out there. These buildings, this fence, are both efforts on the part of the developer to provide a more secure environment for the cars that he hopes to sell, as well as the storage buildings that he's going to be operating.
Can you refresh my memory then? So we have the cars to the east, and then you have the storage to the west on this large
Correct.
piece of property. So is the fence going to go around both sets of property, or is the fence going to just go around the storage?
No, ma'am, the fence will go around the storage and make it a secure facility.
Okay,
But the owner is aware of problems that he's had with the property and theft at the car lot. He is anticipating, he's preventing anything from happening. This is a measure that he's taking to prevent that.
okay. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Other questions for Mr. Feeney? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor? If so, please come forward. Then is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in favor? Is there anyone present this evening who wishes to speak in opposition? Please come forward. Then is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in opposition? Are there any council members who wish to speak? If not, then I call for the question.
Question?
Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Belovich?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Mr. Bednicki?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mrs. DeMade?
Yes.
Mr. Carrington?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
Yes.
Mr. Hixenbaugh?
Yes.
Resolution passes 9-0.
Ordinance is on second reading.
Proposed ordinance number 2023-40. This is the civil city budget and tax levy for 2023.
Thank you. May we have the committee report, please?
Yes, Mr. President, to the members of the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka, your Committee on Budget and Finance, to whom was referred the matter of proposed ordinance number 2023-40, report that they have examined said matter and that, in their opinion, it should be adopted. This is signed by the entire committee, and I move for its acceptance.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. A motion has been made and seconded to approve the committee report. Any additional questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We'll now move into second reading and public hearing on proposed ordinance 2023-40. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, if you would, please come forward to the podium.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Thank you for that reminder, Madam Controller. And I will note for the record that we not only had a presentation at the last council meeting, we had a very well-done PowerPoint presentation that was very helpful to me and others, so thank you. So at this point in time, we will now open up the floor for any questions or comments from the council. Then I'll close by adding, again, thanks to Mayor Wood and his staff, Mrs. McGuire and her staff for the work that they did on putting this budget together. I think we've said virtually every year that I've served on this council that budgets are about our priorities as a community. And if you look at that PowerPoint that was presented to us last time, overwhelmingly so, we invest in Mishawaka in public safety, which is job number one of local government and which is where we put our dollars to protect every one of our residents, every one of our businesses, every one of our visitors. So I appreciate the work that has gone into this. I appreciate the priorities that are established in the budget. And I look forward to seeing the work that we do this evening in approving this come to fruition as we move into next year, and this has a tangible impact on the quality of life in Mishawaka. So with that, if there are no other questions or comments, I will call for the question.
Question?
Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Belovich?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalente?
Yes.
Mr. Benecki?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes. Yes.
Mrs. DeMaid?
Yes.
Mr. Compton?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
Yes.
Mr. Hixenbaum?
Yes.
Proposed ordinance passes 9-0. And please, everybody, stay afterwards because everyone has to sign. Thanks. Proposed ordinance number 2023-41, an ordinance of the Mishawaka Common Council authorizing advance payments on contracts for public works projects and goods and services.
Thank you. May we have the committee report, please?
Yes, Mr. President, to the members of the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka, your Committee on Budget and Finance, to whom was referred the matter of proposed ordinance number 2023-41, report that they have examined said matter and that in their opinion should be presented to the council as a whole. This is signed by the entire committee, and I move for its acceptance.
Second.
Thank you. A motion has been made and seconded to approve the committee report. Any additional questions or comments? Then hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? We will now move into second reading and public hearing on proposed ordinance 2023-41. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, if you would, please come forward to the podium.
Good evening. City Controller Rebecca McGuire, requesting your approval of proposed ordinance 41. This allows the city to make advance payments, and due to the change in Public Law 181, this ordinance will allow us to do that, as vendors more often than not now are requesting upfront payments. Either they do not have the cash, or other customers have placed orders and then have backed out, so they are not willing to extend the credit.
Thank you. Any questions for the controller? Mrs. Volker?
Hi, Becky, thank you. So my only concern with this is, having done this in my personal life, prepaid for somebody to purchase something for a job, and they disappear. So how do we, I know this is a different scale, but how do you control or track, these prepayments and make sure that we're not going to lose money on it?
Did you want to speak?
Good evening. Sorry to jump in. Ken Prince, Director of Community Development and Planning. The real issue here is there's certain vendors that we deal with. I would use HVAC systems, furniture that we buy. It is standard business practice for them to get 50% down. And the reality is, when you look at the way those contracts are worded, Mr. Hinkle is very good about changing some language in the contract, but if we want this specific heating system or we want this specific furniture, we have to follow that vendor's guideline. I mean, that's just how it works. They don't make adjustments for cities, and they are very happy to say, take your business elsewhere if you don't go down this route. So what I look at what Becky's doing, and she can add to it, is she's keeping us in line with what state law requires by bringing this before you. Because we've already done this practice in the past in order to obtain that. And I would use sculpture as a good example. Mr. Lehman did a wonderful job with the recent sculpture at Marvin's Garden, but he would not have the resources to undertake that without having a significant deposit for materials and the work that he would have to do, which again is standard operating procedure for that type of business.
So I'm sorry, I'm a little bit confused. So we're asking to do this now, but we've already been doing it.
Correct.
Okay.
Again, Becky is trying to keep us out of trouble. I don't know how else to describe that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Other questions? Mr. Belovich?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Becky, what percentage of our vendors will you think will be falling into this category? Have any idea at all?
It should be a small percentage, like anything that needs to be manufactured. We've seen it on playground equipment, things like that.
More specialized type things?
Very much so, very specialized. And the reason we've done it in the past, we had a previous city attorney give us his opinion that if since we were purchasing the materials up front, we own those materials. And we've never had an audit comment in the past on that. And with the new state legislation, we want to make sure we're following the guidelines and putting it in ordinance form.
Thank you.
Mr. Compton?
Thank you. That makes sense, Becky. And business practices, people want something down to get started, and I get that. My question is there ever a case where it is 100% payment prior to services rendered?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Good. This is more about down payment, 50%.
Deposits.
Deposits, things of that nature, and making it us comply with new state guidelines.
Yes, and the ordinance only allows 50% as well.
Okay, thank you. I didn't read it that close. Thanks.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Thank you, Mr. President. Has there been any cases where the services that we've prepaid have not been rendered that you can think of?
Not that I can recall. No.
Thank you.
Other questions? Then a few brief follow-ups. And thank you for your work and Mr. Hinkle's work on this ordinance. To follow up on some of the questions that my colleagues posed, the ordinance, as I read it, also builds in some safeguards to be protective of the city. There's some process language with regard to tracking prepayments through a purchase order and creating a prepayment invoice. But what speaks to it the most, in my opinion, is that it indicates that when the prepayment is in an amount more than $150,000, then there is a surety bond that has to be posted by the entity that receives the prepayment. Is that correct?
Correct.
So if, in fact, there would be that situation that has never occurred in our experience where somebody didn't provide us with the materials that we prepaid, we would not only have any other legal recourse that was available to us under the law, but we could pursue a claim against that surety bond, correct?
Correct.
And then, as you indicated, this is not freestanding approval with regard to any amount of prepayment, but consistent with the statutory language. It's the lesser of 50% of the entire cost of the contract, or $2 million. So even in those multi-million-dollar relationships that from time to time you're involved in, we're still going to operate within those guardrails and parameters, will we not?
Correct.
Okay. And then, not so much a question as a comment, somewhat related to this. I had the pleasure recently of sitting in on the exit conference with the auditors in the State Board of Accounts process, and the record should reflect that they had very glowing comments to make about you and your staff, as they typically do. So congratulations on once again surviving the audit process and coming through with flying colors on behalf of the city.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mrs. McGuire? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the proposed ordinance? If you would, please come forward to the podium. Then is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in favor? Is there anyone here this evening who wishes to speak in opposition? Please come forward. And is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in opposition? Are there any council members who wish to speak? If not, then I call for the question.
Question.
Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Belovich?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Mr. Benicki?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mrs. DeMade?
Yes.
Mr. Compton?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
Yes.
Mr. Hicksabaugh?
Yes.
Proposed ordinance passes 9-0. Proposed ordinance number 2023-42, an ordinance declaring an emergency and transferring and reappropriating funds within the budget adopted for the calendar year ending December 31st, 2023. This is in the Park and Recreation Non-Reverting Fund and the amount of $25,000.
Thank you. May we have the committee report, please?
Yes, Mr. President. To the members of the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka, your Committee on Budget and Finance, to whom was referred the matter of proposed ordinance number 2023-42, report that they have examined said matter and that in their opinion it should be adopted. This is signed by the entire committee, and I move for its acceptance.
Second.
Thank you. A motion has been made and seconded to approve the committee report. Any additional questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We'll now move into second reading and public hearing on proposed ordinance 2023-42. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, if you would, please come forward to the podium.
Good evening again. This transfer is to help fund the repair of the Red Bridge at Shirogiri Gardens. We have funding in consulting that we are transferring to Park Development, and we've also received a gift from the Community Foundation that will give us the total amount of the repair, which is close to $65,000. And you received a letter from the park superintendent describing the repair, and we also have Jake Crawford here if you have any questions on the repair or bridge itself.
Thank you. Any questions for the controller? Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor? If you would, please come forward to the podium. Then is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in favor? Is there anyone present this evening who wishes to speak in opposition? Please come forward. And is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in opposition? Are there any council members who wish to speak? Mrs. Volker.
Thank you. I just wanted to let everyone know that I went out and met with Jake Crawford last week about a few things and took a look at the bridge. And I had seen it before, and it really is in disrepair and, frankly, in areas unsafe. If you were to fall against some of the railings they could give, maybe not with me, but maybe with somebody who's a little bigger than I am. But Jake also mentioned that this bridge has been there for 30-plus years, and I think you read in the report that, or the letter that Phil Blasco sent, that they're making some changes that are going to minimize the water that hits the bridge, and then also they're going to be cement footings instead of the wood going directly into the ground that will minimize the problems with rot. And the rot's really evident if you go and look at the bridge. So I just wanted to say it's a beautiful bridge. It's iconic. So many people use that for senior pictures and weddings and just so many things. I'm really happy that we're taking care of it. And I think you've found a master craftsman who's going to do it for you. So I just wanted to let everybody know that. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Then also let me add thank you to the Crawford family and the Nancy and Donald Crawford Fund that's held within the Community Foundation for their matching grant that allows us to make these needed repairs. So thank you for that as well. And if there's nothing else, I will call for the question.
Question.
Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Belovich?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Mr. Beninki?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mrs. DeMade?
Yes.
Mr. Compton?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
Yes.
Mr. Hicksonbaugh?
Yes.
Proposed ordinance passes 920. Proposed ordinance number 2023-43, an ordinance declaring an emergency and determining the expenditure of additional funds for the year ending December 31st, 2023. This is in the Human Resources, Insurance Claims, Taser, Police, and Fire Truck, in a total amount of $1,220,000.
Thank you. May we have the committee report, please?
Yes, Mr. President, to the members of the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka, your Committee on Budget and Finance, to whom was referred the matter of proposed ordinance number 2023-43, report that they have examined said matter and that in their opinion it should be adopted. This is signed by the entire committee, and I move for its acceptance.
Second.
Thank you. A motion has been made and seconded to approve the committee report. Any additional questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We will now move into second reading and public hearing on proposed ordinance 2023-43. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, please come forward.
Good evening once again. We have 4 items that I'm requesting approval for additional appropriations. First one is out of the Human Resources budget in the general fund. We currently have a safety director position in the utility department, and we are moving, the scope of the safety director has now changed and evolved, so that person will be paid out of the city budget and the general fund. We are currently taking applications now, so $20,000 would more than cover, if we hired someone today, for the rest of the year, and that's what that's for. In the park fund, this line is for property insurance and liability insurance, and we saw an increase in our bill, and the park fund doesn't have a line where we can transfer from, so we're doing an additional appropriation for this item. And in the public safety local income tax fund, we had two items that were, while not emergencies, they were purchases that we did not want to pass up. We were able to provide tasers for the entire police department, new technology, and we received a discount by paying cash up front, not up front. Don't get confused with advance payments. Paying in full upon receipt, not making, having lease payments. And then a stock fire truck was coming off the line, and that's for our reserve. And if any questions, Susan Kyle, Human Resources, and Chief Wachowski is here. You could talk about the tasers, and you also received some memos as well on these items. But these are all additional appropriations.
Thank you. Any questions for the controller? Thank you, Becky. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor? If you would, please come forward. And is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in favor? Is there anyone present this evening who wishes to speak in opposition? Please come forward. And is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in opposition? Are there any council members who wish to speak? Mr. Mamalenti.
Thank you, Mr. Hicksonball. If you don't mind, if I could have the Chief Wachowski come up and... May not need that paper, but I just wanted to ask, Ms. McGuire had mentioned that there was some new technology with the new tasers. I didn't know if you could shed any light on that.
Sure. It's brand-new technology. Actually, starting this year, we had we had 2 5-year contracts with Taser on the initial X26s that we carry now. And one of them expired, I think, in June, and the other one was going to expire probably in another year and a half. And so they come out with this new technology, new weapon that's, it shoots, can shoot 10 darts compared to just the 2 that we carry now. The range is different. The ones we carry now, you have to be within, I think, 21 feet. The new ones, you have to be within 40 feet. And the nice thing about the new technology is, a lot of times now you might use it, all a use to force issue, which is, lower than doing something else, so, or going hands-on, it's safer for the officer. So we like the tasers. But what's nice about these, sometimes, depending on, weather in your winter, thicker coats, you shoot the tasers we have now, one dart might penetrate and the other one just gets caught in clothing or it doesn't penetrate at all because either distance or whatever is going on. So with the newer ones, if that one dart misses, you have 8 other shots, that you can take if the second one misses. And it's like you don't have to worry about the separation because now when you shoot, you have to be at least 7 feet back, preferred because then you get the separation of darts, which you want. And so the new ones now, you actually, with the laser, you just aim and shoot. So you can place them directly where you're aiming at, where you're shooting at. It's actually safer for the suspect because the other ones, when you just let them go at 7 feet away, sometimes that dart, might go somewhere you didn't plan on it to go in. Where this, you can actually aim and actually put the dart exactly where you're wanting it to go.
So you aim and shoot per dart? Or
Yes.
2 darts?
Single darts. So you shoot once, and, we go through extensive training on this. It's like a 12-hour training for this new tool we have. And so you aim and put the dart, first one where you want it, and then you need to put it, the other one, the further away, the better it works. So you can actually shoot maybe upper back, and then put the other one below the belt line and get a good span, and which works the best. So and if you miss, then you've got 8 other shots.
What about the batteries? Are they rechargeable yet?
Yes.
Are they? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Other questions for Chief Witkowski? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Are there any other additional questions or comments from the council? And hearing none, I will call for the question.
Question.
Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Belovich?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Mr. Benicki?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mrs. DeMade?
Yes.
Mr. Compton?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
Yes.
Mr. Hicksonbaugh?
Yes.
Proposed ordinance passes 9-0. Proposed ordinance number 2023-44, and ordinance amending ordinance 5829, the fixing of the salaries of all sworn public safety for the city of Mishawaka, Indiana, for the year beginning September 20th, 2023. This is amending the salary ordinance for all sworn public safety.
Thank you. May we have the committee report, please?
Yes, Mr. President. To the members of the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka, your Committee on Budget and Finance, to whom was referred the said matter of proposed ordinance number 2023-44, report that they have examined said matter and that their opinion, it should be adopted. This is signed by the entire committee, and I move for its acceptance.
Second.
Thank you. A motion has been made and seconded to approve the committee report. Any additional questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We will now move into second reading and public hearing on proposed ordinance 2023-44. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, if you would, please come forward.
Thank you, Ken Witkowski, Police Chief. I would like to speak in favor of proposed ordinance 2023-44, specifically on the removal of the signing bonuses for the police department that was put in place, I believe, last year, pretty much as a recruitment tool. So with the changes of the 12-hour shifts and increased pay, I think we no longer, that is needed to attract people to come to the Mishawaka Police Department.
Thank you. Any questions for Chief Witkowski? Thanks for your work on this and on the move to 12-hour shifts. And as a follow-up to that, not necessarily this evening, but perhaps at the next council meeting, it might be beneficial to us if you could provide us with an update as to where you're at in staffing and if there has been an influx of applicants to fill our vacancies since it has become public knowledge that we're moving to the different staffing model and different compensation structure. So if you can consult with your recruiter and provide us with some details and facts and
I
figures.
can answer a little bit of that if you'd like.
Okay, great.
I believe we're still at 96, right around that number right now currently. And as we've been seeing, we do have, I think, several laterals in a process currently. And the last number I heard was like 35, 36 of non-laterals, just people that need to go to the academy to send. So I believe it is working. Matter of fact, I interviewed 2 laterals today.
Fantastic. And if memory serves, as opposed to the budgeted strength for this year, next year we'll go to 99 officers, is that correct?
Correct.
And the 12-hour shift model is predicated to operate at peak efficiency with 80 officers assigned to the uniform division. So as that application process plays out and as you're able to finalize your staffing for 2024, if you can keep us updated, please, as to where you're at with regard to assigning those 80 officers to the uniform division so that we can see the benefits, as soon as possible of the move to the 12-hour shift model, I think that would be beneficial to all of us.
Yes.
Fantastic, thank you. Any other questions for Chief Witkowski? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of the proposed ordinance? If you would, please come forward. Then is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in favor? Is there anyone present this evening who wishes to speak in opposition? Please come forward. And is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in opposition? Are there any council members who wish to speak? If not, then I call for the question.
Question.
Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Belovich?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Mr. Benicki?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mrs. Demade?
Yes.
Mr. Compton?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
Yes.
Mr. Hixenbaugh?
Yes.
Proposed ordinance passes 9-0. Proposed ordinance number 2023-45, an ordinance amending ordinance 5811, fixing the salaries of all employees of the city of Mishawaka, except Mishawaka Park Department, elected officials, and the Mishawaka Utilities for the city of Mishawaka, Indiana, for the year beginning September 20th, 2023. This is amending ordinance 5811, all city employees, human resources safety director.
Thank you. May we have the committee report, please?
Yes, Mr. President. To the members of the Common Council of City of Mishawaka, your Committee on Budget and Finance, to whom was referred the matter of proposed ordinance number 2023-45, report that they have examined said matter, and in their opinion, it should be adopted. This is signed by the entire committee, and I move for its acceptance.
Second.
Thank you. A motion has been made and seconded to approve the committee report. Any additional questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. With that, we'll move into second reading and public hearing on proposed ordinance 2023-46. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, come forward, please.
Good evening again. And piggybacking with the increase in budget for the safety director, we also have added it to the salary ordinance for Civil City, where on an annual basis, in the new revised position, the safety director will make approximately $65,500. And in comparison, in the position with less requirements and responsibilities under the electric division, it was $57,900.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the controller? Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor? If you would, please come forward. And is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak? Is there anyone present this evening who wishes to speak in opposition? Please come forward. And is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in opposition? Are there any council members who wish to speak? If not, then I call for the question.
Question?
Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Belovich?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Mr. Benicki?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mrs. Demade?
Yes.
Mr. Compton?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
Yes.
Mr. Hixenbaugh?
Yes.
Proposed ordinance passes 9-0. Proposed ordinance number 2023-46, an ordinance amending ordinance 5820, fixing the salaries of all sworn police officers for the city of Mishawaka, Indiana, for the year beginning January 1st, 2024.
Thank you. May we have the committee report, please?
Yes, Mr. President. To the members of the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka, your Committee on Budget and Finance, to whom was referred the matter of proposed ordinance number 2023-46, report that they have examined said matter and that in their opinion it should be adopted. This is signed by the entire committee, and I move for its acceptance.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to approve the committee report. Any additional questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? With that, we'll move into second reading and public hearing on proposed ordinance 2023-46. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, if you would, please come forward.
Mr. President, council members, Dave Wood, Mayor, here to urge your support of proposed ordinance number 2023-46. We've heard a lot about the shift over to 12 hours in our police department. We've already taken substantial action here to make that a reality, as have FOP. So really, the last bit that will require your attention is to change the salary ordinance, which was based on the collective bargaining agreement done in 2022, which committed the city to 2023 and 2024 needs to be amended to account for the new 12-hour schedule rates. And so that's what this ordinance does.
Thank you. Any questions for Mayor Wood? Thank you, sir. Bless you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor? If you would, please come forward. And is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in favor? Is there anyone in attendance this evening who wishes to speak in opposition? Please come forward. And is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in opposition? Are there any council members who wish to speak? If not, then I call for the question.
Question.
Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Belovich?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Mr. Benicki?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mrs. DeMade?
Yes.
Mr. Compton?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
Yes.
Mr. Hexenbaum?
Yes.
Proposed ordinance passes 9-0. Proposed ordinance number 2023-47, an ordinance fixing the salaries of all employees of the city of Mishawaka except sworn public safety, Mishawaka Park Department, elected officials, and the Mishawaka Utilities for the city of Mishawaka, Indiana for the year beginning January 1st, 2024.
Thank you. May we have the committee report, please?
I don't have it.
Woody?
Sorry.
I don't have it. Wait a second.
I had 4.
Okay.
I read my 4.
I passed out 8.
Then at this time, the chair would entertain a motion that indicates that
I can get another one if you want.
to the members of the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka that the Committee on Budget and Finance, to whom was referred the matter of proposed ordinance 2023-46, report that they have examined said matter and that their opinion, it should be adopted. And would that in fact be signed by the entire committee, Mr. Chairman?
No problem.
Second.
Thank you. A motion has been made and seconded to approve the committee report as orally stated. Any additional questions or comments? Then hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. With that, we'll move into second reading and public hearing on proposed ordinance 2023-47. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, if you would, please come forward to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mayor Dave Wood here to seek your approval, recommend support of proposed ordinance number 2023-47. This is the salary ordinance for 2024. This, as you know, has already been looked at through the Civil City budget. And what we are seeking this year is an increase of 3% for our staff. That, of course, is non-collective bargaining staff members. But we do have some outliers that are within that, that exceed that 3%. First of all, as you know, we did a salary study back in 2022, and we looked at all of our staff, and there were a few outliers. And so we came up with a plan to bring those outliers up to and get them in line with what our salary ordinance suggested. And so the second part of those increases will hit this salary ordinance for 2024. Also in this, we are seeking the return of the HR department office manager, office assistant, which would be a tremendous help in that office as we've got a small but mighty crew in there, but they do an exceptional job, but they could sure use the help. We're also looking to reconfigure the IT department with some increases again. This is something that we study This is a department that gets hit by market conditions more than most. These are highly skilled, specialized people that do these jobs. In fact, last year alone, we lost our director and our assistant director to higher-paying jobs in other communities. And so we want to make the salaries within that department such that we are able to hire, which we have struggled to do. We are at full staff -1 right now. We just had a staff member start today. We are now just one help desk position away from being full-staffed. Department heads, we have most of them. You know, we pay what we can. Most of these people could go elsewhere and make more money just based on their skills and on their leadership ability. And we thankfully have not had a lot of, I guess, turnover with department managers. You know, they're passionate about what they do. But there are a few that fall, what I think is below really a wage that they deserve. And so I would like to create a kind of a minimum salary for department managers. I'd like to set that at $70,000. We have 3 positions within our department managers that fall below that. That's code enforcement, building department, as well as HR. So this would bring them up to that $70,000 mark. And then, of course, parks get approved, park department salaries get approved by the park board, and so we're seeking some additional duties and increases there as well that are within the outliers. Another part of this is that every few years, well, in fact, we started it just several years ago, a deferred comp increase. In fact, we started initially what had never been done before, and that was a match for deferred comp. We started it at 1%, and that's if any employee citywide wanted to put 1% of their income towards deferred comp, we would match that at 1%. It's been a while. I would like to take that up to 2%. And then that, of course, meaning the city would match 2% of our staff members who contribute 2% of their income to deferred comp. This then also correlates a little bit with PERF, which the city does contribute 3%. So if an employee took full advantage, they would see about 5% of their income matched by the city. I think that's pretty customary out in the marketplace, and something that when we're talking about salaries and benefits for employees, we try to make sure that we're covering our staff with fair compensation, with good benefits, and in this case, benefits that typically you're not going to find anywhere else out in the marketplace, for not only them, but for their families. And then we also want to make sure that their retirement is good too, after a full a career of serving our citizens and public servants as public servants. You don't enter into this profession to get rich, but I do believe that we owe. The salary ordinance for 2024 proposed includes is longevity for non-union, non-utility salary personnel. These are the folks who have been here in many cases for decades, providing exceptional service to our citizens. You all see it. We all hear about, just our higher standards and level of service that we provide than most other communities. It happens because we have people dedicated to doing that, passionate, in fact, about doing that. Most other collective bargaining units have longevity pay. Most other ones collectively bargain and get, maybe it's some kind of stipend or some kind of specialty pays or extra this or extra that. The folks here at City Hall, which this would cover mostly, they're always on the outside looking in, but yet we would not be a successful city without their leadership, without their commitment to our services. And so it would, I think, send a strong message that we value your service, we value your leadership, and your experience is very much not only, I think, acknowledged, but that we want to reward it. And so I would ask that you have the numbers in front of you of what we're suggesting, but that you send a strong message to our people here that, they do an exceptional job over a long period of time, and we want to reward that.
Thank you. Any questions for Mayor Wood?
Yeah.
Mr. Hazen?
I was just asking about the 70,000. Where's that put us on that pay study that they did? Is it in line, or are we still below, or?
Well, they weren't any of the outliers to begin with, so it wouldn't have been low in the marketplace per se, but as far as around here, they're the low salaries. You take Code, for instance. Code has been one of the lower paid department managers, but just over the course of the last year, we really stepped it up as far as pursuing different options within Code, a new expert, kind of skill set as far as taking properties and focusing on properties, going to hearings, and it requires a whole different kind of leadership level, but as well as supervising staff and more staff within that department. And then, we've got a building department, obviously a growing city. Any of these folks could go to any other community and make a lot more money. And so these are folks, again, when you think about HR, building, Code, these are people with a lot of experience who are very marketable and could leave us and go elsewhere and make a lot more money. And we just want to make sure that they feel valued here.
So I guess we're below the study then, probably?
In the study, now, well, they didn't hit the outliers. I don't recall if they were below. Becky, do you? They're right.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Other questions for Mayor Wood? Then thank you again, Mr. Mayor, for the work that you and the controller and the department heads did on this. I certainly support it, and I like the fact that, number one, that we did that salary study last year, as we talked about at that time, but number two, that it's not just gathering dust on the shelf, but that we're making use of it and using it to help guide our decisions. So hopefully the city will continue to do that moving forward, and as we discussed during our budget meetings, as the time is right, that we update that study so that it'll be a evolving document that we can continue to make use of. And I would echo your comments with regard to the quality of the work that our employees do across the board. We're in a people-intensive business, and the services that we need to deliver to folks are going to be impossible without having highly trained, well-qualified, and dedicated employees. And what is in front of us this evening allows us to further recognize all those attributes on behalf of our employees. So please express our appreciation to them for the work that they do on a daily basis for the community.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor? If you would, please come forward to the podium. Then is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in favor? Is there anyone here this evening who wishes to speak in opposition? Please come forward.
Hello, Council. My name is Andrew Graber. I am the business manager of IBW 1392. This resolution talks about the non-unionized employees. The union is currently in the process of negotiating with the utility department for setting the wages. I come to speak not in opposition of the content of the bill, more in just opposition of cementing an increase for non-union employees when there's an active negotiation for the unionized group, which can be an influence for wanting to cement, not wanting differences between the union and non-union, usually between the employer and the unions. So I'm not entirely speaking opposition, more of a request for tabling this until the union negotiations have been completed.
Thank you. In a moment, I'll open up the floor for questions, and I'll certainly defer to our legal counsel and to the corporation counsel, but my recollection is that we are statutorily obligated to pass this type of ordinance by November 1st, and then, subject to further negotiations, as has happened in the past, we can amend the ordinance, not reduce the number, but supplement it based upon the outcome of the collective bargaining process. But that's my recollection, and I'll defer to legal counsel if I
Okay, if that is the case, the union finds that sufficient.
Oh, and it's a good conversation, and it's a point well taken, and this council, along with the administration, respects the bargaining process, and we want that process to play out, but we have that artificial deadline that state law puts in place. So certainly, we wish you well as you return to the table. On behalf of the members that you represent, we look forward to hearing what the outcomes are, but nothing that we would do this evening prevents you from bargaining in good faith and representing your members.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition? If you would, please come forward. Then is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in opposition? Are there any council members who wish to speak? If not, then I call for the question.
Question.
Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Belovich?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Mr. Benicki?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mrs. DeMade?
Yes.
Mr. Compton?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
Yes.
Mr. Hixenbaugh?
Yes.
Proposed ordinance passes 9-0. Proposed ordinance number 2023-48, an ordinance fixing the salaries of certain elected officials of the city of Mishawaka for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2024.
Thank you. May we have the committee report, please?
Yes, Mr. President, to the members of the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka, your Committee on Budget and Finance, to whom was referred the matter of proposed ordinance number 2023-48, report that they have examined said matter and that in their opinion it should be adopted. This is signed by the entire committee, and I move for its acceptance.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to approve the committee report. Any additional questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. With that, we'll move into second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance 2023-48. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, if you would, please come forward to the podium.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dave Wood, Mayor, here to speak in favor of 2023-48. This ordinance would set the elected officials' salary for the year 2024 at an increase, the standard increase of 3%. While we talked in the previous ordinance about longevity pay and the like, elected officials will not participate in longevity pay program. The deferred comp would be, elected officials would be eligible for the deferred comp. Of course, that is if they were to make the contribution of 2%. 1 or 2% into their deferred comp. So with that being said, I would seek your approval for a 3% raise for your elected officials.
Thank you. Any questions for Mayor Wood? Mr. Compton.
Mr. Mayor, thank you for this, and I certainly will approve this. But as I leave this group, I ask you and future council members to consider our mayor's salary. I know that's puts you in a spot that's kind of tough, but it needs to be increased and significantly, in my opinion. So I ask that you work towards that in the future. I know there's been some discussion on that, but it needs to be done, and maybe next year might be, this isn't a good year, I realize that, but maybe next year would be a time to address this, and I ask for you and future council members to really look at that and think about that in the future. That, and with that, the clerk's position as well. I see that the certifications are here, and that's good, and that should be, and they should be compensated for those things as well. So I appreciate that if you think about that in the future.
Well, I thank you very much, Mr. Compton, and as I mentioned before, we enter into this profession not looking to get rich. It is a public servant position, public service, and my salary, which is all I get, is right there in the paper for everyone to read. And so we do keep an eye on it just to make sure that we're not falling behind other communities around the state. I've always felt like we shouldn't be in the top 10, we shouldn't be in the bottom 10, but we should be somewhere in the middle, and we are. So, we do keep an eye on it, but I appreciate the sentiment, and I thank you for that.
Well, the position's a CEO of a pretty good-sized corporation right here. That's what you do. You know that, I know that. And it should be compensated reasonably accordingly. I understand it's public service, and I understand those things, but to continue to attract good talent and people interested, I think that's something that needs to be done. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was going to save my comment for later, but since Mike brought it up, I would second that. I mean, I think we have to look at that. You have department heads making more than you. You have probably 50% of your police and fire making more than you when you figure their overtime in. And I think I agree wholeheartedly with Mr. Compton on that.
Well, thank you. I think in another couple of years, all of our police will be making more than I, and I think that is actually appropriate for the guys who jump between us and harm's way. I have no problem with that. So, and, with certain skills for department managers, again, this is market conditions that drive a lot of this. So to say hire an engineer or an attorney or a controller, these are people with very specialized skills and in many cases require degrees. My job, you got to be 18 and live in the city for a year, and that's it. So I don't have to bring a special skill to the job. Now, it's a passion and I love it, but I am a public servant and I don't expect to get rich, so thank you.
Any other questions for Mayor Wood? Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor? If you would, please come forward to the podium. Then is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in favor? Is there anyone with us this evening who wishes to speak in opposition? Please come forward. And is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in opposition? Are there any council members who wish to speak? If not, then I call for the question.
Question.
Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Belovich?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Mr. Benicki?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mrs. DeMade?
Yes.
Mr. Compton?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
Yes.
Mr. Hixenbaugh?
Yes.
Proposed ordinance passes 9-0.
Thank you. At this time, we'll move into privilege of the floor, and we invite members of the public to the podium to speak with respect to non-agenda items only under privilege of the floor.
Good evening. I would like to just read a,
If you could, please start with your name and address for the record.
sorry.
That's okay.
My name's Alicia Vandigriff, and my address is 840 South Sheridan Street, South Bend, Indiana, 46619. On October 5th, 2023, I went to the Marvin Gardens Marv Woods ribbon cutting ceremony. This ceremony was held on my 40th birthday. As an underdog in life and one of 2 underdogs in my family, this ceremony was supposed to bring joy, which it did, to an extent. I am glad that I was persistent and still attended. I stood in the rain just like everyone else. A very nice woman offered her umbrella, then a nice man next to her gave us his larger umbrellas to share so we weren't in the rain. The simple act of kindness was greatly appreciated and the world could use more people like this, especially the Princess City, as it shows leadership and guidance to all underdogs cities around us in northern Indiana. During this ceremony, an ambulance and fire trucks went by. Sorry. They made their stop at Benoni Assisted Living Facility. My father wasn't at the Marvin Gardens ribbon cutting ceremony, as previously planned and talked about. I shared that I had to leave to make sure that my dad was okay. For some reason, on October 5th, people I love like to die, like his mother, my grandmother. When I was a 12-year-old little girl, then to follow my godmom when I was 38 years old. Needless to say, I needed my dad that day. As I do every day for the rest of his life. As I did on 2 other occasions, I waited on the sidewalk only to see this was not my father going in the ambulance. I then thanked God and prayed for the nice woman and everyone in the facility. On October 13th, 2023, I was trespassed from the property after a male medical staff member screamed in my face during my father's chest pain spell. By the way, he has an aneurysm. After one of the female medical staff members, who claimed to be a nurse, was scared to wake my father up, I then said, "I am not scared," and did a sternum rub on my own father. And I was prepared to do CPR. My resume consists of 6.5 years of a certified clinical hemodialysis technician, 6 years of a certified nursing assistant, 3 years of a medical assistant, not to mention hospice care and much more. I've completed 2 years of college at Central New Mexico Community College in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I am currently registered at Ivy Technical Institute in South Bend, Indiana to finish pursuing my nursing degree. I have saved countless lives with no question, and I would do it all over again. I would do it for my father and yours. Just because I know how to do CPR and sternum rubs doesn't mean that I should have to on my own father. I'm not sure my grievance that I filed with Benoni in August, the Mishawaka Housing Authority in August, then in September, one verbal, the second meeting was written, and the Mishawaka City Hall, that one was hand-delivered on October 2nd, which I now remember, Ms. Susan Kyle, she was the only one to thank me and to tell me sorry. and she said sorry for all of the turmoil. She was the only one in 2 months. I'm not sure that this grievance has been taken care of. I've left several civilized messages for Mitch in the business office at Benoni. Through the course of the past several months, the staff as a whole has been extremely rude, even when I called anonymously. Mitch, my father, and I did have a sidewalk meeting with the whole building watching, where he threw what my father did have of mine on the street in a box in front of my father and myself. My father tried to take care of this situation and was immediately shut down. I have asked to talk to Dr. Van, who was my father's doctor at Benoni in August, where we had doctor's appointments at my father's apartment. Since August, my father has been bullied. Our relationship has ceased to exist. He's the only parent I have. He was fear of losing his place and being on the street. Through the course of this tragedy, I have continued with my PTSD, depression, and anxiety. Those terminal mental illnesses have gotten worse. And since then, I can now add a traumatic brain injury, major concussion, and trauma stress-induced seizures. I've been hospitalized. I've been to the hospital 4 times, along with that hospitalization. I can only imagine what my father's aneurysm looks like, or his own PTSD, or depression, or anxiety, along with his diabetes and much more. How's his kidney function? When he lived in Florida, he was at stage 2 renal disease. With guidance and education from his oldest daughter, that's me, that improved, thank God. I'm a mother of 3 biological children, I have a stepdaughter. I have other children that I help co-parent. I am a grandmother of a total of 6 grandbabies and 2 grand angel babies. My life was almost taken from me too soon. I would like some kind of closure for this tragedy, as it has impacted my entire family, all the way down to my youngest son, who is under 18. Mitch and Dr. Van told my father and myself that everyone that walks through that door is a patient. I said everyone has an invisible backpack. We don't know what people carry around with us. Why can't we be like the random strangers offering umbrellas while ladies are standing in the rain? I could go on and keep pouring my heart out to you all, but I won't. I just hope that something positive can come from this very negative situation, and I hope God bless and prayers for everyone. And I wanted to give somebody this paper, and I already have a copy of it.
Thank you. And if you want to leave that with the clerk, she'll make sure that we receive a copy of it. And certainly we can appreciate your concern, and we're sorry for what you've experienced. I wish there was an ability on behalf of this group to provide you with some of the closure that you're seeking. And even though the name is Mishawaka Housing Authority, it really is more of a federal governmental program than it is anything that we as a municipality have any control over. By and large, I think our main involvement is that the mayor has the ability to appoint some commissioners who sit on their board, but they don't answer to us, they don't report to us. So I wish there was some more that we could do tangibly and talk to you this evening about how we could help. But if you leave that information with the clerk and along with the contact information that you provided us, if we can come up with anything that we can do to try to be of assistance, we'll be happy to do so, okay?
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak under privilege of the floor? If so, please come forward. And is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak under privilege of the floor? Thank you. With that, we'll move into unfinished business, of which there is none. New business. Is there any new business to come before the council? Mr. Mamalenti.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Just a brief reminder that our monthly Twin Branch Neighborhood Watch meeting will be this Wednesday, October 18th at 7 o'clock, 7 p.m. at Fire Station Number 4 on Harrison Road. Our guest speaker will be State Representative Maureen Bauer. She'll be there to discuss her roles and responsibilities and answer any questions from any residents or anyone that attends. All residents of Mishawaka are more than welcome to come. Barnaby's will be served, and hope to see everybody October 18th at 7 p.m. at Station Number 4.
Thank you, sir. Any other new business? Mr. Emmons.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a reminder that the West End meeting will be held this Thursday, the 19th. Our guest speaker will be Mr. Brian Tanner, who'll be talking about the Third Thursday event here in Mishawaka and other new events that's coming into the city. So it should be very informative. We look for everybody to attend. Again, it's at 7 o'clock at St. Babel's, and refreshments will be served from the West End Bakery. So look forward to everybody being there, and so it should be an interesting day. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other new business to come before the council? Then if not,
Next meeting, the next meeting date?
just a reminder that because of an event that some of us are interested in, that being Election Day, we have previously rescheduled our next council meeting, so we'll next meet on Monday, November 13th, and we look forward to seeing you all again at that time. Is there any other new business to come before the council? And hearing none, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved.
We're adjourned. Thank you, folks.